Hi guys, welcome back. We are doing a Q&A with legendary casting director Nicci Topping. She has been in the industry for many, many years, working across commercials, films, stills, music videos, and she is here to share all of her knowledge and insider expertise on the industry, tips in the audition room, and also her career and how she moved into casting. So I'm going to bring her in. Hi, Nicci.
Hi, Rosie. How are you, darling? You okay?
Good, good. What's the weather like up? Because you're in Yorkshire, aren't you? So what's it like up there?
Oh, it's grim. It's grim up north, as they say. But yeah, it's raining today, unfortunately. I know, I just want some more sunshine, you know, but the thing when it does rain, it does actually make me want to stay in more, and it makes, you know, it helps me to get on with the work that I'm supposed to be getting on with. So, you know, when it's a nice day, everyone wants to get out, don't they? Even though we can't really go out. Well, we can, but we're restricted. But yeah, so it's grim. What's it like where you are?
Yeah, no, it's really, since we launched this platform, Collective Creative Initiative, apart from the 4-day heat wave when no one could sleep or work, it's been really grim, like quite cold, quite raining. Yeah, it's like you say, it's good for working if you have to be indoors the whole time. But yeah, I kind of would like a bit of summer back now. That'd be quite nice.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Nicci, just tell us, I mean, I've given you a kind of very, very brief intro, but your career has covered so many different areas of the industry. So will you just talk a little bit about, you know, to start with how you got into casting in the first place, because you've been in the industry a really long time.
Yeah. Gosh, well, I decided I wanted to work in this industry right back from the age of 16, actually. When I worked in radio, I used to present the local What's Ons, and I was absolutely terrible. I'm surprised they gave me a job. But anyway, that's what I did, and I was determined to do that. So initially I wanted to be a TV presenter, and when I went to university, I taught myself out of that completely, because I seem to have lost confidence really when I went to uni, because I think when you're around so many confident people at that time in life, you just sort of talk yourself out of things, and that's what I found. And I just thought, oh God, I'm not going to really have a chance in doing this. So I thought long and hard about what can I do, and I thought my mum's going to kill me if I just, you know, don't do anything, because I already kind of didn't go to university straight after sixth form college. I took a year out and worked in retail, which I absolutely loved. I worked at French Connection in Leeds, and it was great. So much fun there. But so I went to uni, did a degree in theatre studies and communication arts, and when I was on that course, I just didn't really enjoy it at all. You know, everybody enjoys their time at university, but I didn't really enjoy it until it was sort of the second year, when you can pick what modules you wanted to do. So one of the areas that I decided to look at was, you know, how an agent works. So I managed to get a placement at a model agency in Manchester, and I was also interested in casting. So I did my case study back then on casting directors, and you know, as well mentioning, because a lot of people still get confused with, you know, they call as casting agents, casting directors. So that was sort of covered in that, and I did a couple of interviews with casting directors. So from that, I decided to get a job working at an agency, and worked at a couple of agencies, and then decided I didn't want to be sort of restricted to working in an office all the time, and I wanted to get involved in more of the casting process. So I managed to get a job as an assistant, so it's the casting assistant. But also I worked as a production manager, managed to work as a production assistant, production manager on commercials. And for me, I just couldn't cope with getting up really early in the morning. Now I get up really early in the morning, and it'd be probably the ideal job for me to do. But back then, I just really loved my sleep. So I thought casting is great, because you don't really need to start until 10 o'clock, and you can work however. But I mean, it's different now for me, because I you know, I get up really, really early. So yeah, so from that, so I worked as an agent, and then I worked in production as production manager, just on commercials, and then worked as a casting assistant for lots of different casting directors all over the country. Did a little stint with MTV, worked primarily on commercials, then went into features. Although saying that, one of my first projects was a feature film, but I just sort of fell into commercials a little bit more. And now to this present day, I'm doing everything right across the board: feature films, TV drama, a little bit of theatre, lots of commercials, short films, voiceover. I used to do lots of the voices for the games, the PlayStation games. I used to cast a lot of that many moons ago. Yeah, so that I think that kind of tells you a little bit of how I got into the industry. But I love it. It's great. It's been challenging. It's been a journey, but I've managed to sustain a business, and I'm working, which is great, which is what you want, really. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
I mean, we work across, mostly theatre, but then also, we've cast a few commercials, we've just finished a feature film, and I feel like that diversity keeps everything just so much more interesting, because you're just working with different people, different styles of casting. I don't think people realise necessarily how different it is between like a commercial casting, where you might get a phone call on like Monday saying, "Hi, we're shooting on Friday. Can you send over like 40 options for something?" And then the brief changes like 24 hours later, versus a feature film, which, the one we finished on, where we put the names in place, has taken us 2 years. So just like how different those processes are. So like, what, in terms of like your process as a casting director, obviously that varies project to project, but let's say we're looking at a commercial casting, what's your kind of process? How do you start?
So, I mean, again, it just depends on what we're looking for. But I would use the obvious pools, such as like Spotlight, casting networks, Cast Web, Cast Call, Mandy, Star Now sometimes, and I would place a brief on those platforms. And so that would be the first thing that I would do. And obviously I keep a book of talent that I've seen, and I keep sort of a register of who I've seen and who's great. And sometimes I'll think of, they'll be brilliant for this, and I might have seen them something else, and just pull them in. So I do that quite a lot, and I think that just comes with experience, really, when you've seen a lot of talent, and you kind of sort of see. Jessica Barden was somebody who was probably about this high when I met her, and now she's in her 20s, and her career is like amazing. So it's really good for keeping an eye on talent, even from a really young age, and just seeing where they're going to go, and thinking they're going to do really something quite special, carry on doing what they're doing. So so that would be my sort of initial process, and then go through the suggestions that come through on all those platforms. We go through absolutely every single thing. So Showreel in the office, and Marie as well, we go through. We work as a team, which I think is really important. Don't sort of like delegate and leave. I'm part of that process, because it's really important to, we've been employed by producers to do our job. So I'm really, you've got to be there to do it properly. And then we go through, and I normally would tend to pull in maybe 6 for a commercial for each role. I just like to keep it to that number, unless it's a director that specifically asks for lots of, they want to see lots of options on the day, casting session. So I just like to keep it to that number for me, because I think, like, if you know what you're doing and you know who's going to be good and who's right, then that, I'm confident with working in that way. So there's always a camera operator that I have, so he'll film the casting, I'll be there. Sometimes the directors will be there, and we'll just give them the direction, what we require, and then make a decision after that, or we might get them to come back in and do recalls, and then we'll decide on who we want to cast. So that's kind of the process, really, on how we work. If it's something that we need to street cast, which is quite popular, I've also got a team in place that would work in that way if it's that requirement.
So can we just talk a little bit about street casting? Because I think it's a bit kind of mysterious for some people.
Yeah.
So literally you guys would go out and cast real people off the street.
That's right. Yeah. I know when they say street casting, real people, actors are real people, and I always pull actors in when I am street casting because, you know, they've got this training in place which enables them to act in a certain way. So, you know, they can do that. They've been trained. So I pull them in, and often enough, you know, we'll go with an actor. Sometimes we'll go with somebody who's off the street, but I just think you've got to just look at it as a whole, really. We'll go out if we want to cast like bingo ladies and bingo guys. We'll go to a bingo hall and we'll target them in that particular way. I don't know how it's going to work now with everything.
Right.
What we're doing seems to be online, so it'll be a lot of research, really, to see who we can find, or just people that we know. As well. I think we could still do it, but it's just you can't engage with people properly on the street because we've got to be mindful now. So how that's going to work.
Social distance street casting.
I know.
Something that people ask a lot to casting directors, and I'm very interested to hear your answer on it, and then kind of feed in with what we always say as well. But that is, you know, what are the magical tips for booking an audition? Like, what is it that books that person, that job in that room? If you bring those 6 people in for recalls, like, what advice do you have on presenting yourself? Let's say in a commercial scenario, because we're talking about commercials.
Yeah. So I think it's really important, just, you know, things which should be, you know, you should pay attention to are like your headshots and your you know, your CVs, and showreels as well are great. Make sure you've got a showreel on there that you're happy with, but make sure you get professional feedback on showreel, not just from friends and from family, because the worst thing is having a showreel on there that doesn't, you know, represent you in the way that it should. So as long as you've got a great interesting headshots that are on there that we can look at, as well as the initial one that we see, headshot that we see, I think that's really important. And I think these glossy headshots, you know, don't really work for me. Everybody's completely different, but I love black and white, and I just think black and white headshots, they're just really, you know, you look at somebody's face and it really tells a story and the detail in it, and it's just a little bit more interesting. So it is, that's the first thing that you see is somebody's headshot, and then from that, obviously, you do look at their work and see what they've done. If they've done anything conflicting, then we're likely not to, depending on the sort of the duration of time, we might pull them and we might not, you know, if it's like over 3 years, and we will. So that's also something to be mindful of. If an actor's thinking, oh, I'm not getting pulled in for this, it's because you've done something which is conflicting, and you know, because the chances are we're not going to cast you. And then also, if we're looking to cast a family as well, it's important that they all look similar. So that could be another reason why people aren't getting pulled in. But I think it's just that initial effort. It's just when you see that and it totally fits the brief for you and feels right.
Yeah,
they've got something maybe on their CV as well, which you know, highlights that. But it's that look, especially with commercials. If they look absolutely spot on. Now I say 6, but sometimes if there's somebody that I really want to pull in, it might be a 7. But yeah. So and then obviously, you know, somebody that I know who's really, really good that I've seen before who look perfect for the part, I'll definitely pull them in as well. So yeah.
And then what about in the actual audition room? We talk a lot about kind of being yourself and listening to the direction that's given in the room. And I think sometimes audition nerves take over, and people kind of don't listen to the direction that's given. And often that is, sometimes a director will work with you a little bit just to see what you're like to work with in the room. Can you adapt something that you've already brought in that in your mind is set? So what other tips could you give actors for successful auditioning?
So I am all about, I meditate, and I think doing a meditation before your casting is a good idea. So I do that every day, and I think it's make sure you turn up on time. So all these things, just to sort of, it's the preparation prior to getting into that room. So make sure you know what you're actually going to be seen for, which sometimes actors don't, and just make sure you've done as much preparation as possible. So if we sent you feature-length script to read, we'd expect you to read that. And also, you know, obviously, if you've had that for some time, we'd expect you to be off book when we're doing your scenes. So it's the preparation really that goes into that, and just, you know, doing things. I would advise any actor or any creative or anybody to meditate, really, honestly, I would, because it's just, you're in that present moment as soon as you come into that room. And all those little voices in your head thinking, oh God, I'm really, really nervous, I can't do this, what they're going to say. And when you do, because I've been in that position before when I've had to do a presentation, you kind of forget everything and you don't listen to anybody because you're so overwhelmed with things in your head and what you're thinking, and that little voice. So meditation really helps with that. And there's lots of other techniques as well from friends that I've learned that are practitioners in tapping, hypnosis and Reiki. All of those alternative therapies I think are really great to help if somebody is suffering from nerves. And, you know, because actors do sometimes do it, and sometimes that can come across, I know they're not being like that, but that could come across when they're not sort of responding in a way you want them to, as being maybe just rude or a little bit arrogant, but they're not. It's just, you know, it could be they're a bag of nerves at times. So I think it's a preparation which is really, really important, because I can completely tell at times what's kind of going on when somebody comes in and they are feeling like that. You get that, you know, it's that, you know, that sort of energy. So, and just being really polite and asking questions if you don't understand. You're happy to be there because we've called you there. Well, I've called you in there 6 out of how many to be there. So we really hear you. So, and just listen to everything what's being said. And if something you don't understand something, just say, could you repeat that again? I'm not quite clear on that. Could you go through that? Don't be scared of asking questions, asking things like that, because we'll, you know, I want everybody to do really well, you know. So I'd rather you ask me and we'd go through stuff. I mean, if the director's not there, I will obviously go through things a lot, you know, I'll do maybe 1 or 2 or 3 takes in that auditioning process, just because I want the actor to do the best. So being polite is one thing, and just being on time, and just, like you say, listening to what's being said and then doing it. And yeah, that's it, I think, really. Did that answer your question? I think I went on a little bit.
No, it's great. I think a lot of casting directors, we get asked these questions a lot on Q&As, and I think we're all kind of giving the same answers, which is exactly what you said. Be prepared, be on time. But if you're not on time, something happens, we know that trains break down, or another audition runs over, but leave it outside the audition room. And as you say, Nicci, like coming in that present place, ready to listen, ready to engage. Interestingly, we've added into the program here with Dan De Cruz a mindfulness vocal warm-up. It's not primarily for singers and musical theatre actors, but so that you're not only warming up the voice and the body, but the mind, and getting yourself in that present place. So I think that's really important. We do have a couple of questions, guys. Feel free to ask any questions as we go. You do need to be subscribed to our YouTube channel if you want to ask Nicci any questions. So I've got a couple around showreels and self-tapes. So Endless Everything says, as unrepresented talent with almost no credits, what should my showreel look like?
So, well, if you haven't got anything on, any material, then you can't put anything on there. So in order to get something on there, it's a lot of the work, the groundwork is down to you. You've got to go out there and find it. I would recommend looking at film schools, because they do take on actors. So that's always a good starting point. And also looking at indie projects as well. I know that Star now does have a lot of indie projects on there. So it's just a case of doing that. You can, however, go out and get one of those show reels made. I think they're okay, but they're not my favourite. I mean, they're good if you haven't got anything, and if you are really struggling, maybe look at that. Maybe do your research again and just find out who would be the best person to help you put one of those together. But initially, you've got to go out and do the groundwork. I know it's really difficult. I mean, when I got into casting, started on my own, I had to do exactly that. So I appreciate how difficult that can be. You just got to go out there, and you've got to be quite bolshy. Send emails to casting directors. You'll soon find out if they don't want you to email. There is a book called The Actor's Book, isn't there, which is has in there what casting directors like, if they like to be emailed or not. But just take a risk with it, I say. They might just ignore you, they might get back, and they might just say, do not email me. But that's one way of finding out. I don't mind actors emailing me. Sometimes they might slip the net a little bit. So you have to keep on top of that, keep a diary of who you're emailing, which casting directors you're emailing. If you're trying to get an agent, which agents you're emailing. I mean, I would have said invite agents and casting directors for something that you're in, but this is just not really going to happen for a while. But if there's something that you filmed and you want to, get that out to them, then by all means send that out to casting directors and agents so that they can have a look at the work. I've really gone on, sorry.
No, it's brilliant. I think we always say to people, and again, we're very happy for actors to write in. We always say, if you write when there's something specifically casting, it's much more likely to land. You can write generally, and lots of grads are writing at the moment and introducing themselves, which is fantastic, and you get read and filed away. And if you don't get a response, we're not being rude. It's just that we can't reply to every single person necessarily. But also, it's best to write, if you have new headshots done, or you're inviting that casting director something, or you've got a new show reel, and be careful, just because a casting director like Nicci or like us kind of say, don't write every week. Don't write kind of every week, like, again. It starts to look crazy. But so just be sensible, be be mindful of how busy, like in normal periods, that casting office might be, and that if you are invited to write and introduce yourself, that will be read, and that CV will be read in that show reel at some point. It just might not be. You might not get the response that you want immediately, and it's always better to write when that casting director has a project going on that you might be right for. Just talking briefly about show reels, I'd love to hear like your do's and don'ts of show reels.
So don't have something that's too long, and have a good, make it quite varied as well, I would say. So like I said, I like to see professional work on there, really. And I like to see the credits. I know a lot of casting directors don't, but I like to see the credits of the work as well on there. And I think really that's just generally it, probably about maybe 3 minutes long, not too long, because, but just a good range of clips on there, really.
And do you like a separation of, like, if someone has specifically like a comedy reel and a drama reel, do you want those separately, or are you happy to have them blended as long as they're not too long? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I think, I'm happy to have them blended, but if they've got quite a lot on both, then maybe could be a good idea to do that. But if they're just nice little snippets of work, that's fine. As long as it's not too long.
Yeah, that's one thing. Is like a 7-minute reel, and you think, gosh. Yeah. What you risk then is us skipping ahead, because we kind of go, what else is on here? And so we might miss the things that you want us to see at the beginning. So keeping it nice and concise. Fantastic. Thank you for that question. Safa, hello, says, any advice on commercial auditions? What do you like to see in self-tape? So this is really important. I think self-tapes have always been around for especially for commercials and for television and film, but certainly for people in the theatre world, this is completely new, that we're all, everyone's self-taping for everything. So what are your biggest tips on self-taping for first round auditions?
So I think make sure you've got the phone. Your phone is landscape if you're going to use your phone, and just basic things like make sure it's lit well. And if you can get those little studio kits, can't you, on Amazon? You can invest in one of those. You don't have to. Make sure you've got like a plain background, not like mine, but a plain background. And when you're for commercials, I think commercials are possibly really hard to crack, to be honest with you, because you're only given that amount of time to crack them. And so I think they are very difficult and to get at times. So I would I would advise any actor to do 2 takes, and if there's a script, then get somebody else to read in, get an actor to read in.
Yes,
for sure. I know it's been difficult now, but when we've been doing self-tapes, we've heard actors sort of, well, either recording another voice or somebody on the other end of the phone doing it. So, but that's work. It's work. It just gives, just makes it sound a little bit more interesting, and it just helps the other actor with their audition performance piece. So yeah, so that's kind of the basic thing, really. And maybe just do different takes, 2 different styles, not to sort of hammy it up, because it's really difficult because there's nobody there initially giving you that direction. So just a performance as close to yourself as possible, and just whatever else is required with that. Makes sense.
Great, good advice. I've got Zach, I think we might have half a message from you here. If you just want to have a little look at that, I think only half of it came up, but we will definitely come back to that question. Endless Everything is back. She says, I'm a Muslim woman wearing a headscarf as it is part of my identity. How far will that limit me in my acting career? Well,
it shouldn't really limit you at all. Absolutely not. I can't see that limiting at all.
Well, it's actually something that's unique to you, and might be something that we're specifically casting in that moment. So everything makes you different is what makes you unique for that project. So fantastic. So Christopher, this is an interesting question. So he says, thank you. With lockdown, there's been a lot of family castings. Do you think this trend will continue? I live on my own, so not right for any of the jobs at the moment. That's very interesting.
Oh, bless. I think it will do for a while. Yes, I do. But not always. Not always. We might be looking for, just an actor for a particular role where we're not looking for families. So, something will definitely come along. It's getting busier now.
Well, that's something that I'd like to talk about, actually, is that certainly with areas of theatre, I mean, we've just had an announcement today that Regent's Open Air Theatre is going to be putting on 70 performances of Jesus Christ Superstar, which is amazing. And there are lots of little things happening, but certainly in the television, film and commercial world, things are really starting to shift, aren't they, to going back to being busier. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I know, some of the news has been a little bit doom and gloom, but actually behind the scenes, things are going back into pre-production and casting is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really getting busy now. I know I've spoken to several casting directors, and they're really run off their feet. They're doing films, commercials. So it's really picking up now. There's a lot of, because I do cast lots of films, so they're not actually going to be happening until later on in the year.
Yeah.
And commercials as well. They're set to sort of be shooting around the August time.
Yeah.
They're just taking extreme measures to make everything COVID safe. So it's just going to be a case of smaller crews and taking those extra precautions that we need to put in place now. But things are really picking up. I think the big studio films probably won't happen until next year. But as independent films go, they're starting up, and drama and commercials, I think, were probably the first to go. But I've had lots of inquiries for work. So so it's really, really picking up.
Fantastic. So are you casting Christmas commercials at the moment? Is that what's happening?
Not quite yet. No, not quite yet. I think they'll be coming in pretty soon. Just I think some more of the sort of autumn winter ones now. Christmas will be, I think, maybe end of August, September for sure. Yeah, but I think some Christmas ones are happening, but not me particularly.
Not yet. So guys, be patient. There is stuff happening, but obviously,
absolutely,
all the production teams have to be put in place first, and casting directors attached before anything else can happen. So hold tight, things are changing.
Yeah.
Andrew says, are there any agents you recommend personally? My concern is the one I'm with are not on social media, so they may not be as well known to casting directors. So I'm just going to start off here and by saying, as casting directors, we're not really ever able to personally advise around agents. That's a little bit of a conflict of interest for us. I think, you know, without knowing who you're with, it's kind of been a difficult time recently, particularly if you predominantly work in theatre, or really any kind of media has been very quiet the last few months. So it may be that auditions have been a little bit quiet for you, but there really has not been anything happening, has there, Nicci, for like the last month? So very hard to judge. Also, being on social media allows a certain amount of presence, but there are lots of casting directors who don't use social media a huge amount. Sorry, agents who aren't on there, and you know, certainly that doesn't influence whether I use an agent, is whether they're on social media or not.
I totally agree with what you just said there, Rosie. Absolutely. I think the best thing, if you feel that your agent, you know, like you said, Rosie, it's been a difficult time. So I think the best thing is maybe to have a meeting with your agent and just have a chat and see what they think about the future, and see how you can put a plan in place. But it is still a difficult time. So I think that would be the best thing. I'm not sure whether or not agents are sort of, I'm sure they'll be taking actors on, there will be, absolutely, but I just think you need to probably just think about everything that's happening now, and maybe have a conversation, get together some sort of a plan of action.
Absolutely.
But if you wanted to really change your agent, then you again have to do your research, and it's looking at actors, looking at agents, looking to see how many clients they represent, which, you know, is there a place for you there? Would you fit in? Is there anybody that looks exactly like you that they represent? Those sort of things. I think a lot of it is doing your groundwork really and seeing who is going to be the right one for you.
And it's a very personal thing, isn't it? A relationship with an agent. Some people are with their agents for literally 20 years, which kind of is the plan. You know, I had 2 agents in my whole career as an actor. I think James only had 2 as well over like 18 years or whatever. But you know, some people get with a certain agent and their friend says, oh, I absolutely love it, and it's just not a fit. So it's a very personal, and vice versa. Sometimes an agent will say, look, I just don't know at the moment, I can't get you in the room for this, or I just, you know, the area that now you want to go down with your career, I can't look after. So it's just, you know, and if it's not working out, that's absolutely okay. But I think it says, do your research. You know, why is it you want to be with that agent? What is that relationship? What does that look like to you in your mind before you know, even approach them? So good luck, Andrea. But chat with the agent you have now, most definitely. Shayla says, hi, been here since day one of CCI. I love it. She's got a question. I'm fluent in 5 languages. Oh my gosh. That's is it? Is it a problem to have Showreel in 2 languages mixed together? That's a really great question, as casting directors and agents primarily look at the Showreel and not the CV.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Again, if you can fit that in and it fits in place quite nicely, or you could just have 2 showreels. I think maybe have 2, because if you've got lots of work, you know, in predominantly with one language, then that might be good just to have that. Yeah, it's a good question. That I think it just, you know, if everything fits together and you do get a good variation, a good range of your work, and that just that you want to put that in there in that mix, then do it. It's a question to have with your editor as well, who's going to edit that showreel together. You've got to sort of test these things out, haven't you? And then ask. I would ask, once you've put something together, ask 5 industry professionals what they think, because we'll all say something different, that's the thing, but at least you know, go for the majority of what people say, but ask maybe 5 industry professionals, I would advise what they think.
And maybe just think about how it's signposted as well. Like, is it clear there's 2 languages in there? Do I start watching in one and think that's the whole, like, do you label it saying, I don't know which languages they are, let's say German and English. Do you say mixed German English? Is it worth maybe subtitling the German so that there's a context there for us who don't speak the language? Yeah, but I think it's great to be asking yeah, maybe different people on different opinions on that, but
Yeah.
more and more multilingual actors, which are just, you know, fantastic. It just opens up your casting and everything.
Yeah.
So that's really brilliant. So I just want to talk a little bit about diversity in the industry. Obviously, there has been a huge awareness recently of lack of diversity, of awareness, and really action in the industry. So what are your thoughts on how we as casting directors and the industry can work to improve inclusivity in the industry moving forward?
Well, I think casting directors tend to have open minds. So, you know, I think that's what we should be looking at is the talent as a whole, and whoever is the right actor for that particular role, no matter what the colour of their skin is, or, you know, or religion, we should go with that performer if they fit that role. Right. So that's what we should be doing. I mean, I've done that from dot one in my career. So
we've also been really, really lucky that we've worked with producers and teams almost exclusively who said, we just want the right talent, or said specifically, we want this to be really representational of a group of people. It can't just be about one, you know, demographic. So we've been really lucky that people have said, just bring the talent in the room, and it's literally been cast based on that. So we've been very lucky that we've been able to work with people that have the same mindset that we do.
Which is brilliant. I think, you know, I'm always mindful as well of box ticking, which seems to be, you know, you get a sense of feeling that that's been going on. You know, it's time to change and make sure people stick to those changes and not doing that, which is totally wrong. So I think people need to be educated more. I think that's a really big factor. And, you know, if somebody doesn't understand, you know, and they ask questions, and we should be here just to help them with that if we do have answers, or we can advise them on the right way. But yeah, it's just, time to change. It really
time to change. And I think possibly that this period of everything coming to like a bit of a pause for a while has given everyone a bit of time to step back and say, well, just because it's been like this for the last however many decades doesn't mean that we have to move forward. It's a time that we can effect change and drive forward, looking at things in a new way. And that is part of it, I think. Interestingly, just while we talk about diversity, I've got an inclusivity. Katie says, I'm a partially deaf actress. It's not noticeable, and I work very hard to make sure it doesn't affect my work. Regardless, do you think it's something I should be mentioning? What do you think, Nicci?
I don't think it does you any harm to mention it. I think it's, you know, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think as well, you know, if it is something that, you know, it does impact, for example, in an audition room, and you find that I don't know, you say you're partially deaf, whether you struggle to hear some form of direction, or you're in an environment where that's kind of impacting your ability to perform at your best that you feel. I think it's always better to say, because a team will always go out of their way just to say, well, what can we do? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm dyslexic, and it's good to know, you know, actors that are dyslexic, because we need to give them more time. So, you know, because they ask for more time. So, you know, you have to just mention things which are going to be, you know, that are important, really, that you think we should know. Definitely.
Great. Shayla, who asked about the different languages, says it's not long dialogue. Okay, great. So yeah, maybe just ask some more people. Just going back to show reels, Catherine says, I currently only have one scene on my show reel as the process of getting more footage has been delayed by COVID. Is it worth adding a self-tape? We get asked this a lot, to my spotlight profile for variety. Thank you. What are your thoughts on self-taping monologues and things?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, with that. I think unless we want to see a self-tape, then I don't think I would have it on there personally. But another casting director might say something else. They might love that. So it's tricky, isn't it? You're getting one thing from one and then something from somebody else. But personally, I tell you what I like on show on CVs is if you've got a show reel, great. If you haven't, just clips of work that you've done.
Right.
So I'll link to that. That's always a good thing to do. But you know, unless you need to do a self-tape, I wouldn't go to that effort of just putting one on there.
Would you watch it if someone had nothing else? Would you watch it, Nicci?
I would do, yeah, I would, but I'd want it to be specific to what we were casting. So yeah, because I probably would have a look at it, and I'd probably think, well, you know, it's good. However, we don't we want them to read for this, so they'd have to do another. Yeah, I don't think it'd do any harm really, as long as it's super good. But I don't know.
Brilliant, guys.
I'd probably say not. Right? No, don't have it on the. We got low in the end.
Christopher, no, you're not a pest. Never apologise for asking questions. We love it.
What do you want this time?
What would your advice be for getting small TV roles and one-liners to get you started? So we're talking about like day roles and things like that to working in TV. Would it be something you say in an email sent to a casting director?
So, Christopher, I can't remember if Christopher got an agent, I wonder. So, Christopher,
I'll have a look. 1 second, yeah. I'll look up on Spotlight.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's just a question, really. Again, talking and working out with your agent. You know, finding out. Just it's doing their what does it say? Not PR or such, but just
no. Nicci's he's not repped.
No. Okay. So I'd have to have a look at the CV first, really, before I could really answer that, because it's quite. Unless we're casting something, we're not really going to be looking for, you know, somebody just sort of, unless they've been put forward. So yeah, I'd have to probably have a look at the CV really to answer that. Which I'll have a look, Christopher, if you want to send that over. But it's just a case of just going to auditions and just for the casting director to, if they want to invite you in for a meet and greet or Zoom, whatever we're doing now. Yeah, I can't answer that really.
I think what you said earlier was really interesting, Nicci, and we say this a lot to actors when they're like, oh, you know, I went in for 6 auditions and I didn't get it, or I got to finals, is that casting directors will remember you if you're good and you are nice in the audition room, and they'll kind of, you know, we have these enormous databases of talent that we meet, and sometimes we go, oh, I really, really want that person to work. So you keep bringing them in and you just think they're so brilliant, just waiting for the right project. So sometimes just even, you know, that audition that you have forgotten about that happened, you know, 2 years ago, whatever, that casting director might remember you and say, do you know what? I've just thought of that one role. We need a bartender in that scene. Christopher in. So sometimes it's just having been in the room with different people. So I think like Nicci said, just keep going to all those auditions, keep engaging, you know, with people as much as possible. And you know, if people encourage you to write, do that. I think maybe what he's asking as well is, do I specify I'm very happy to do like one line? You know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's not going to do you any harm, is it? It's just going to be, go for it. Yeah, let us know what you're interested in. You know, just keep us in mind. I think if you're sending out an email, just keep it very short and a bit interesting. There was an actor actually who I wish I'd kept his original email that he'd sent to me, because it was so engaging and it was so funny and it was so just well thought out and. A long-winded email, and I'd got him in for a few castings because of that. And I think maybe I'm not saying try and be funny, put something together. It's got to be as close to you. Everything has, but just think out your emails a little bit more, and maybe just drop something in on that, and then try and get a relationship over email with casting directors, but it's not going to, you know, do it, go for it, just, you know, see what comes back. You never know. Have
you been sent any tea bags, Nicci?
Do you know what? I don't think I have.
I don't think I have either, ever. It was a big thing, wasn't it? I think about 10 years ago, and everyone
yeah, probably about that. I thought you were talking about like lockdown now. I haven't been sent any lockdown. But I have done before in the past, yes.
Have you?
Yeah, tea bags, yeah.
I did. I heard a story about someone putting glitter in their cover letter. I was like, don't ever do that. Never.
God.
They opened this letter and everything just went, when it was just.
You can't get rid of it, can you? As well, that's the thing. So.
Ever.
Oh,
So Nicole has said, so we kind of have touched on this, but what's your advice about contacting casting directors' general emails with the real invitations to work? Is it better coming from the actor or from their agent?
It's always better to come from the agent, only because, you know, the likelihood that we've probably dealt with them before in the past is, you know, has probably happened. So, but if you haven't got an agent, then by all means, yeah, definitely drop us an email. Again, keeping like just a log really, just on emailed what day, what was the response, did they get back, and just keeping a diary.
Me again. Hi.
Yeah.
Also, we say to people, you know, if we're in the middle of casting something and you want to write and say, hi, you know, here's a new show reel, or, you know, I've got something new to show you. Whereas like just check in with your agent if you have one and just find out where we are. Sometimes people write and say, I don't know if my agent submitted me on Spotlight. So you're kind of doubling up on the work. So we've got that email and we've got the submission, but also we work really hard to build relationships with agents throughout the industry, and we have very specific, you know, there are some agents who, you know, I am friends with within the industry, so they'll kind of WhatsApp me at 9 o'clock and say, oh my God, I've just forgotten this. And there are other agents we have a more formal relationship with, so you don't always know where we're sitting. It might be that Nicci's turned around and said, listen, Nicole, for Nicole, it's a no this time, she's just not right. So then when you write again, it then becomes, oh, I have to respond to Nicole, but I've already said no. So just make sure that you're not undermining a relationship between the agent and the casting director by kind of doubling up and writing again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on advice, Rosie. Yeah, 100%, definitely.
Brilliant, Christis. Thank you so much for answering my question. So we get asked a lot, how do I get into casting? So what's your advice, particularly at the moment where there are some casting directors really busy and there are some who, like us, there's not a lot happening in the casting world. So what's your advice in terms of getting into casting at the moment, Nicci?
So I know that there's a course, isn't there, that the setup, which the CDG have set up. So maybe have a look at that and see. I don't really have much detail about that, but just I've seen that that's something that's going to be happening. So that's all for prospective casting directors that want to get into the industry. But to get in, you do have to start off as an assistant without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I know I came in through a slightly different route, but I did become an assistant as well. I think that won't do you any harm at all. I'm using that word, don't I, today? But you know, try and get an assistant with the casting director, see who's really busy, see, you know, just contact them, because you just never know, do you? I mean, I had somebody who's a casting director now and used to email me, and I gave her, she helped me out on a couple of jobs, and now then she worked as an assistant for lots of different casting directors, and now she's a casting director, which is fantastic. So there is just going down that route, because we're all quite busy normally. So, you know, I've got like 2 assistants, so it's just keeping an eye on them. And one casting director might know of another casting director that does need an assistant. So yeah, it's just emailing really, but trying out different things, I think, in the industry is a good idea, because that gives you an understanding of what different roles are and how they work together and how they fit together. So that's always quite a good thing, and just maybe trying to get on some work experience, getting on a placement as such with a casting director, and then often enough we may take you on, which again has happened a couple of times with some of my assistants. They've come on like a college placement, and I've ended up taking them on.
Amazing. Well, exactly as you say, you know, we started as actors. James was an agent for a year for a London-based office, and the perspective that then gave him in saying, okay, well, now I know how this works and I understand the submission process of this, and actually it was pre-Tagmin, but, you know, having that other side of the industry is so important, and just gives you so much more insight. And exactly as you say, we often we have people that we use a lot for running in the audition rooms, but if they're not available, we might put out on like Twitter, and if you see that and you're free that day, go and get that experience. And the problem is, of course, that the audition room is like this much of casting. It's like the cream on the top of the enormous drink, that so much of it is being in an office looking at submissions, admin, but at least it gives you an idea of kind of what the other side of it's like, and the more experience you can get, the better. And it's always worth writing to directors, and they might in that moment say, I need someone for a couple of weeks, and you get that kind of experience. Is obviously really invaluable.
No, absolutely. It's just timing as well, isn't it? I remember I was working on a film, and we were casting a French actress. We needed to cast one, and I thought I need some extra help, and literally somebody just emailed me, and it was a casting assistant. I went, oh my god, great, brilliant, so it's just timing as well. So like, that's spot on advice, Rosie. I think it's just, you just got to kind of just be proactive, really. That's what you
have. I think actors, I certainly, when I was an actor, I just thought, like, once you became a creative and you started working on things, it was just, and it is, a lot of it's, word of mouth, and then people kind of say, oh, you've worked on this. But there's also pitching. You're still a self-employed freelancer. So getting into this industry, you have to think the way you do as an actor, and you have to be proactive, and you have to connect with people, and you have to think about how you're presented. And so, you'll never ever stop pitching in this.
No. Yeah, we've always got to pitch, haven't we?
Always hustling. Shayla's back. She says, I'm currently based in Switzerland, but looking to move back to London to start my acting career. Any useful tips aside searching for agents, contacting CDs, and going on courses?
I think that's exactly what you need to be doing. I mean, I don't think there's anything more that you can be doing. Just letting us know that you are coming back is brilliant. It's good, contacting casting directors. It's always a good idea to look at IMDb to see what casting directors are working on. See what they're up to. But I don't think you can really do anything more. So just carry on doing what you're doing. It's really good.
I don't know, Sheila, as well, if you have any friends already in London, but kind of the more people you get to know, and going to different certainly attending different classes and meeting lots of people will be a really nice way into the industry. And people will recommend agents and great courses, and you'll just meet casting directors as part of the process. Certainly, I mean, Spotlight is something that most actors are on as a tool for us. That's really helpful. Most of the submissions are going out on there, certainly for most of the projects that we're involved with. So Mandy.com is also really good. You do quite a lot of casting through Mandy, don't you, Nicci?
Yes, I do. I use them quite a lot. So
just as we kind of wrap up, because unbelievably that's nearly an hour gone. That's
my god!
Amazing. So we've been talking with everyone about how they've kind of kept positive in lockdown. I think for a lot of performers, we've talked briefly about certain areas of the industry starting to move again and things starting up. But what advice can you give for actors at this time who may be feeling a little bit like, things have been on hold for a really long time?
Well, I'm a big fan of, as I mentioned, meditating and doing yoga and going out for a run as well. I like running. So just doing, I think, exercise is really good for the mind, and just trying to be positive. Do come up with a plan. I'm always doing plans. I'm forever doing plans for myself. So I think it's a really good idea. Just, what are your next steps? What are you going to do? What needs doing? This time now, really, that we've had in lockdown, we should probably use this as preparation for, how we're going to move forward. But just having basically a plan of action for every day. I mean, I've slipped a little bit, but I know it sounds like work, but just what you're going to do each day, even down to the type of food that you eat as well, which makes you feel in a certain way. I mean, not eating junk food, things like that, but just having sort of a balanced life as much as you can. But definitely doing exercise. Yoga's amazing. If you don't do it, you should just take it up. You can do a gentle yoga class. I do one every Thursday with an amazing yoga teacher called Alison Johnson. She's great. And she does like a gentle one. So anybody that's wanting to get into that, they should maybe look at that. But yeah, that's helped me, really helped me, is my yoga and my meditating as well as massively. So yeah, that's what I would suggest really. And just having a plan and having a focus on how you're going to move forward.
Amazing. I read the other day that 2 million bikes got bought in Britain during lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that. Everyone suddenly decided to get fitter, and I think maybe I'm hoping we come out of this all a little bit like better in ourselves. Not everyone.
Yeah.
I don't manage it every day, Nicci. I don't manage to run every day, and I certainly don't eat well every day. But I know on the days I do, I feel better.
Yes, you do, don't you? I mean, I'm like kicking myself because I didn't do my yoga class this morning. So yeah, so kind of feel a bit guilty for that, but I'll certainly go out for a walk later on and just take some time out in the day for sure.
It's really important, especially when you've been indoors for so long now.
Yeah.
One last quick question from Katie. Katie, I think again this is probably a little bit CV specific, but she's asked, I have a wealth of screen experience, indie shorts, etc., and a strong reel, but this never seems to transpose into TV work. Might there be a clear reason for this?
So I mean, if you've got an agent, Katie, just again, it's having conversations with them and just see if they can put together a plan for you, and maybe just looking at the casting directors that cast lots of TV as well, and your agent and getting your agent to contact them. If you haven't got an agent, then maybe that's something that you could start to do. I don't know if you've already done that, but it can be done. Rosie, you'll know this as well, making the transition from casting lots of theatre to the film. The same with me. You can do it because you do get looked at. You get typecast.
Yeah.
Types of genres. So it can be done. It's just you've got to persevere with it, and it will happen for sure.
Really, really great advice. We have literally 2 minutes left. I just want to talk briefly about something that's really important to us, and that's casting and working outside of London. Obviously, we have offices like you do in both the North and in London. So how do you find it living? I know that you are back and forth, but for actors who maybe are choosing to live and work regionally, is there any kind of advice you can give them on kind of feeling connected and staying, connected with the industry, even though they're not London based?
So, I mean, I quite like not being back in London, I've got to say it. I love it up here. And I think from like a casting point of view, lots of things are, there's lots of self-tape, so that's one thing. But just being connected to other people in the industry, I think, what you're doing, Rose, is brilliant. This is a great way of connecting and listening. And also there's lots of online workshops now. So it's just tapping into some of those. I know the Audition House, that they've started to do some, and various other companies. So it's just, I would say, having a look to see what comes up and see what casting directors are doing as well. If they're doing anything, offering any workshops and things.
Amazing. Nicci, you've been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Christopher says thank you so much. Andrew says very, very helpful. As Nicci said, she is happy for people to write to her. Don't everyone write every single week.
No.
But you also have a brilliant page, a blog, don't you, attached to your
yes, I do. Yes, yeah. And that, well, yes, I set that up because I wanted to try and help filmmakers and most of all actors. So there's lots of advice on there, and it's more detailed advice. And we've looked at Spotlight, we looked at casting networks. We're going to be doing another blog on about Mandy, so all the different casting platforms as well. But there's so it is quite, I've had really great feedback from that, but it's for you guys. So it's Nicci Topping .com, so do have a look at that, and any questions there, feel free to ask, and we'll get back to you as well on that. But no, thank you for mentioning
Brilliant.
that.
Amazing platform, so thank you so much. Nicci,
Well,
that's it. Thank you so much.
it's been lovely. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day, won't you?
And you, I'm going to take you out of the live stream now. So take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all your brilliant questions and comments throughout the live stream. Just so you are aware, coming up at 3 o'clock, I've forgotten because I was so involved in that Q&A. We have Mary Birch, the lovely Mary Birch is here with a mental health webinar talking about all things to do with the industry, looking after yourselves during this quite difficult time. So do tune in for that. She is with us in just half an hour here on the CCI. Thank you so much, guys.